this thing is your recording.
And then like I do all my interviews on this, and then
With this mic. So anywhere you're walking around with
this I don't record because this is anywhere that's like this they run like you know what? And I try to tell this people because it's here you can't really see it. So I always try to show it out of the line of sight. Like I think if it was like this or something, it would be much more. But like being kind from the mouth is roughly like but it's also harder to use because you have the weird because I physically can't take it. When I record stuff, I feel like mark it like
notes.
minutes or
Yeah, right.
so after a 30-minute interview, then I go back to my desk and I'm like, I wasn't able to take notes because you're just, but it makes me it's longer. You can, and I can like I could sometimes I don't, or sometimes what I do here is I'll take it because I'm not coming for but it's a different flow and no having we did a sit down the day before you left and I went and I didn't like notebook and I was like it's weird like part of your brain is lighting like like even when I'm not into the story I want to hear them
and this is the team. There's no I can't do it.
Which is like very nice. She very rarely does she hers are very well. So a lot of Yes, I just said it. I'm saving it, I'm sorry. He is on his way out. If you get it, get it back. I am here. I'm waiting for him. Yeah. Okay. You did? Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. You go ahead. Okay. No, it's okay. Wonderful, thank you.
Stop. Scalzo. Stop. Stop. It's like the White House.
This has been a great week in the People's House. We just completed the work on a bipartisan highway bill. It cuts waste. It prioritizes good infrastructure. It will help create good-paying jobs. And it is the result of a more open process. Over these last 4 days, the House has debated more amendments than in the last 4 months combined. On this bill, Chairman Schuster worked through more than 100 amendments on the floor. When his father had this bill on the floor in 1998, there were 5 amendments. This is a good start. It's a glimpse of how we should be doing the people's business. But we still have a ways to go. This morning, the House Republican Conference held a policy conference to discuss the weeks ahead. Most notably, the government runs out of money on December 11th. Normally, we wouldn't be talking about this yet. It's November. I'm sure someone somewhere would be writing a bill. But only when the deadline approaches would anyone actually see the legislation. At that point, the bill would be pre-negotiated and the outcome predetermined. That's no way to conduct the people's business. So here's what we're going to do. The House has already passed 6 appropriation bills. Negotiations on those bills are already underway. As for the remaining bills, Chairman Rogers of the Appropriations Committee and his members will hold a series of executive sessions with our members. At these sessions, every member will have the chance to review each bill and give their input on their priorities. We've never done this before, but that's how we should work. And now on, that's how we will work. Questions?
Speaker Ryan,
Do me a favor. I know who most of you are, but just give me the name and who you're with
Sure.
so I get it down.
I'm Emma DeMaine with CQ Roll Call. I wanted to ask you, on the floor just now, your whips were asking a question. Did they support bringing back up the Financial Services Appropriation Bill as a standalone? And if it came to the floor, would they vote for it? What's the thinking behind that? And how likely is it that we would see a standalone appropriations bill move through the process in advance of December 11th?
Right, so things are going to be done a little differently around here. We are going to open up this process. So I laid before our conference today a choice of options. Instead of having leadership predetermine, pre-negotiate, and pre-decide how things are going to go, I wanted to invite our members of the conference to discuss how we move forward. We've got a tight deadline with appropriations. We're already past the fiscal year. So because we want to reopen the appropriations process, because we want to bring the Article I powers back, the power of the purse, back to the legislative branch, we're trying to figure out exactly how to do that. So instead of me deciding in the Capitol how it's going to be. I wanted to lay out options in front of our conference so that together we could deliberate and decide. That's what our conference is about. And so we are asking our members how they want to proceed going forward. I don't know the results of that whip. They're still tallying it right now. But again, that is how this is going to be. We're going to make this a more open process, and our members are going to have a say-so early in the process on how we move forward. Ken.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. You, even before you got into the speaker's race, had expressed some skepticism of what you were hearing back from Asia on the trade bill. We saw your statement this morning now. You worked so hard to get that trade, the framework through. If that falls through, something you don't feel you can accept at the end of the day, once you get into the fine print here, does it put you in kind of a crosswind because you fought so hard for that? And on one hand, you were, hoping that the administration would help you pass that, and on the other hand, you're criticizing the administration on immigration. So is that?
Hey, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Something tells me they're going to criticize us and compliment us on any given day. Trade is very important for America. It is absolutely essential that America write the rules of the global economy instead of others writing the rules of the global economy. They just sent the text this morning. So we have a lot of work to do to review this agreement. And we do not rubber stamp anything around here, let alone trade agreements. So because I was the co-author of the TPA process, the American people will now get a chance to see what's in these trade agreements, in addition to the representatives in Congress being able to see it. It's the most transparent and open process we've ever had in considering trade agreements. So I don't know the answer to what my position is on a trade agreement. I have not even yet read, because we just got it this morning. But again, I'm pleased with the process we have coming before us. Open, transparent, people get to see it, members of Congress get to see it, and then we'll decide independently, after consulting with our constituents and our conscience, what our position on anything like a trade agreement will be.
Just could you perhaps
Let me know.
elevate, Carrie Pickett, Daily Caller. Can you perhaps talk about the issues that you plan to elevate to highlight the differences between the Republicans and the Democrats? And also, could you also talk about what kind of issues that you plan to use to assist the eventual Republican nominee for president?
Yeah, so like I said earlier on, we don't like the direction America is heading. We think the president and his policies have taken America down the wrong path. And so we feel that we have a moral obligation to our constituents and to our fellow citizens to offer a better way forward. And so in the next weeks and months, we together as a Republican conference, in consultation with our friends in the Senate, are going to be offering alternatives. We're going to be developing those alternatives. I'm not going to do those unilaterally. These are something we're going to do organically in a bottom-up approach here in the House Republican Conference. And so on all the big issues of the day, jobs, the economy, poverty, national security, defense, we're going to be offering our alternatives and what we believe is the best way forward. And that's a process that's going to take many months.
From NBC. Can you talk about your relationship with the president and how, I'm sure you've studied that as his former opponent on the ticket, as an observer here, seeing how he interacted with Speaker Boehner. What do you expect to do differently? Have you spoken to him, met with him? Give us a sense of your relationship with the president.
Well, we know each other. And yes, I did run against him in the last election, but I'm not, I'm a person that can get along with people. I like people who believe passionately in things, even if they're not the things I agree with. So I generally, as a general matter, enjoy people who fight passionately for what they believe in, again, even if it's not what I believe in. So I've always had a good way of getting along with people on the other side of the aisle. We have spoken. We have not met in person. He's overseas right now, I believe. So we've had a couple of conversations on the phone, pretty courteous conversations, and that's about it.
There's been real movement in the Senate on criminal justice reform. Last month, Chairman Goodlatte and Mr. Conyers put forward a House version of criminal justice reform. Do you foresee criminal justice reform happening by the end of this Congress when you commit to putting it on the floor?
Well, I'm not going to commit to floor actions because that's something I want to make jointly with our members of our caucus. I personally am in favor of criminal justice reform. I supported those. I put those in a plan that I put out as budget chair of co-sponsored bills before I became Speaker. So it's an issue that I think needs attending to, but we're going to have the House work its will. We're going to work through the committee process, like I mentioned. And the committee, as you discussed, is already working on these issues. So that is an issue I think we should be addressing.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I'm Bob Costantini with Westwood One News. The President and the administration has put out the idea that it is studying where to place Guantanamo detainees and the possibility of the President taking whatever executive action he thinks he can to try to live up to his promise to close that facility. What are your thoughts about that right now? And over on the Senate side, by the way, Senator McCain, who thinks Guantanamo should be closed, has put out the idea that the administration should study.
I think Guantanamo detainees should be in Guantanamo. I would refer you to the defense authorization committees. We're passing the NDAA. So I would refer you to the legislation and Mac Thornberry for any further answer to that.
I'm Christina Peterson with the Wall Street Journal.
I can't hear you.
Christina Peterson with the Wall Street Journal. How realistic do you think it is that Planned Parenthood could be defunded in the omnibus? And can you make any kind of commitment that the government won't shut down in December?
I'm not going to predetermine the outcome of negotiations that have not even taken place yet. I don't think Planned Parenthood should get 1 red cent from the taxpayer. That's been my position for a long time, even before I saw these gruesome videos. That's point number 1. Point number 2, we also have a reconciliation process underway. And we have defunded Planned Parenthood through the reconciliation process, which is our best chance and opportunity of actually getting a bill on the president's desk. So we are moving on Planned Parenthood on multiple fronts, not to mention the fact that we have a select committee through the Commerce Committee that is being assembled to look into these issues. How about over here?
Mr. Speaker, Jared Halpern with Fox News Radio. How's your relationship with Leader McConnell? We've seen in this year sometimes the House working pretty separately from the Senate. Curious if you want to change that.
I do. I actually attended their policy lunch this last Tuesday. Some of you were there. That was a great start. A lot of those folks are friends of mine who served here in the House. I've invited Leader McConnell to come over to our House Republican Conference and to address our conference and to enjoy what we call open mic period. So he's taken me up on my invitation. So he's going to be coming and speaking with our conference when we return from this district work period.
Mr. Speaker, Mike Emanuel from Fox. You joked over the weekend that your honeymoon might be about 35 minutes long. Is it over, or how's it going?
Probably. I don't think you get a lot of honeymoons for things like this. Look, this was not a job I was looking for or seeking. It kind of sought me. I realized that it was a duty and an obligation. Now I realize it's an honor. And it's an honor that I have this responsibility and this opportunity to serve. And the way I am trying to do this job is the way that I always thought it should have been done. And that is to make this a more open process so that every citizen in this country, through their elected representatives, has an opportunity to make a difference. That is the people's house. This is the branch of government closest to the people. And so I wanted to have a process that is more open, more inclusive, more deliberative, more participatory, and that's what we're trying to do. That's why I'm saying things are going to be done a little differently. The whip we just had on the floor that you were asking me about appropriations is a decision we have left up to the members of our caucus. That's kind of how I want to do things. I've got to tell you, bills will come up that may not pass. We're not going to bottle up the process so much and predetermine the outcome of everything around here. I want the House to work its will. I think that's the way the founders envisioned it to work. And so that means some things will pass and some things won't. And we're going to let that happen.
Todd Swillick with Public Radio, another appropriations question. In 2013, 33,000 Americans died from gunshot wounds, 85,000 were injured, roughly the same rate as automobiles. The House HHS appropriations bill continues this decades-old ban on the CDC from studying gunshots as a public health issue. Do you think it's appropriate to continue that ban?
I'll refer you to the appropriators and Tom Cole, the chairman of the subcommittee.
You have a position on Planned Parenthood.
I think the Second Amendment is an individual right, and the Supreme Court has recently affirmed that. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm going to stay here.
It worked.
I moved it up.
Did they? Did they?
Because they're like, they probably like the things they're supposed to say, and that's I just think this is kind of stuff too, that's like across the line.
I'm writing the approach.
Okay, I'll write my comment.
I'm sorry, I thought she was there.
Ask Karen. I'm sorry, I have to do this and then highlight.
Because if you asked.
We're leaving this as well.
You just can't live with these guys. Like, they want to be part of the process, and then you give them an hour to talk about stuff.
Like homework, they gave me homework. Lovely time.
It's a wait till next week until something else happens. Something else happens, and then we get this shit. Hopefully, it still stays alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't know because he's going to drop the same bullshit that they. I know. You're going to have to wait till the week of this or yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like they. By the way.
What was going on with this insert with the within the financial
Hey, how's it going? Good. Are you able to? Yeah, I just both. Much information. Right, which was the second.
And to be honest, I forgot to, so I didn't even.
That'd be something in itself, you know? Like, that was a wow, I never would have thought about that. Because, yeah, like, through music, people will like, and just talk about where stuff decided it's just like
I don't think it wasn't.
whatever is stewardship, movies, just like whatever you know, you can't think of it. Exactly. Because it's just really grabbed it, you know, which is why guys fantasize about like slumber parties. Yeah, exactly. We kind of like make fun of you. I never really thought about
All right, see ya.
Still trying to follow.
I don't know why.
She'll just be. It's gonna work.
Go Packers!
Hey, so when do I need to be up there?
You're so wonderful. That was a bad call.
Yeah, and I am like crashing on deadline with something else, so this whole services thing, so if you wanna call, have him call me when he can, before 2. Okay, all right. Okay, thanks. Bye.
It's not the same feel, it's the same, yeah, it's not the same feel. And the doors are obvious, you know? And that's why it's just like, talking about worse, you know? Like, oh. Unless like they were
About later.
actually.
Welcome.
I knew this person before, but what are the chances, you know? Slow it down. Yeah, it'll level up. Are you off next week?
Oh, yeah, not yet, but I can.
Oh my gosh. No.
You know, Frank and I can tell you about an institution called the Wolskies.
But they're using it to employ them. And got it down.
Wait, don't look at me. I'm off Monday. I'm going, I think I'm going to the test. No, she's not there.
August through college basketball offers. So August through April. You don't really see it.
If every time you go to
Then you have to go like, Blacksburg or like.
I did. I followed instructions. Well, Luke and Chad did because he called, yeah, he called on Saturday. Right. That would be a little. I know, I mean, I know. All right, guys, oh, it's just you. You too.
there was no navy blue. All right.
Seems to be very happy. This post about work. I've never gotten
Oh, you took our photos? Oh, I didn't. Oh, I'm sorry, didn't, yeah.
No, I just want to look back.
And then I'm like, actually, I didn't know. Didn't even see you. I was in my own world.
My inner Frank came out.
There you go. I like that. Put in the black and white filter.
This is just stuff that I've noticed over the years, but never really have been able to know exactly what I'm doing. Wait a second. Yeah, I was like,
But then, once you do that,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely.
yes, two votes, so.
Hey, so you want me to explain what's going on? I mean, so basically what's happening is this whole thing about opening up the plaza. Sort of.
Hi, how are you? Are you in there with virgins? I rhyme with that. Oh, okay. Well, I've been here 8 years, but I'm still
Keep it fair. When everybody is waiting. Yeah.
native things. You guys are a rarity, man. How are they got? Are you in the school board? Well, you failed. Now what? What do you want to do?
Narrowly avoided.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you almost have somebody. See, that's why you shouldn't walk in shoes. Yeah, but I got it. Oh, you actually. That's right. That's someone behind you.
Yeah.
You know, again,
He's got.
I talked to Chuck a couple more times. When I got his card, I'll send him to the thing called work.
But he did it all.
Yeah, I think after that.
Yeah, no, he was gone for like 30 times. We just talked about it.
a lot of the guys that were.
I'm gonna give it a nice chew on the next werewolf. Yeah, exactly.
The other team,
Wake me up in the middle of the night.
it's good in a situation like that.
Fairfax is busy today. As far as Fairfax County myself.
Sorry, you done going up to Penn State? Ross, like that. I haven't had anybody shake my hand like that. Oh, I thought y'all just got to figure out
Yeah, instead of them having to call
Somebody was sitting in your gallery.
Oh, just another person.
You know what, we got it set that entire beginning out all the way to like replacement.
Just if they make money.
Each organization have their.
I just never seen it before. That was one of them.
We're always running. You know, Boston's got lines. You can come over
Good to see you.
See you later.
I was wondering, is there going to be any time when you learn more about which of this as far as what you
Dude, I can't get the Pennsylvania folk out of my head.
He doesn't need that. And then you know the dates again. Yes.
Drop back. Okay, great, yes.
It's the winter's time, John. Come on.
Yeah, it's already, this one's right, and then they do it here.
As dumb as that sounds. That's true.
Separation.
Okay.
Milestone.
I realize, I know what you were certain point, I'm like, wait, that's it. It's dumb.
It was, back in the day.
Don't tell many people that, I don't know if I've ever told you. December 10th.
Which this year,
Oh, yes, I will. We're almost done. I know, I've had my days off. Although I feel like tomorrow we're just gonna be like. You'll have to run as happy. Oh, my God. Of course, that's, I was, they were like. Yes, exactly.
Imagine that.
He was at a fundraiser for town last night.
You're just a corner.
oh, that.
Yeah, no, not you, I do have a lot.
Oh, that,
I don't know, it's an old ABC sticker.
nothing for tomorrow?
Right.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can sit in here for a while.
Second off. Yeah, I got it. No.
American Bad.
I took a couple fish. I might have break.
See that?
I could just say roughly 30. You gonna make it?
Ask Nancy.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Hot dogs are nasty.
Oh, yeah.
That one actually probably looked pretty good in Frank style.
Why? I got two words for you, when and why. When's it gonna stop and why does it continue?
Right. So,
You, I never get nervous about it.
I'm so
You're always making fun and cracking one. Okay. I won't give you the business then, Dan. Oh, great. Oh, the landlords.
Round out this conversation.
You know, there's never a time when you need that. Never.
I'm gonna say that right now. It'll be true on the day I die.
I don't know.
Oh, you got it. It's easy though. It's easy to. He's got buttons.
You know, like, he's trying to get back. All right.
Barely.
Oh, it's called situational awareness and self-awareness. His quotient is a little in the negative digits. Negative situational awareness. Does he have a girlfriend?
might still get this
He needs
call.
to-
I'm gonna listen to
Is
it
he going back
on
to
the
Japan
website.
for
And
bail
then just
Thanksgiving?
doing another story after
Sure,
she'll
stop you on it right
that. We'll monitor,
Joe
Do you
Thiesman.
want me to do the readout or do you want me to?
Somebody knew who it was.
No, make sure you don't want.
I'll like send, I can like send you.
No, you didn't.
Okay, thanks, Lindsay.
Wonderful guy.
So funny, I hope on.
Nothing else?
Basically, basically premiering. Oh, you are one harsh guy, you know that? Allegheny General.
Are there like lengthy celebrations going on at home?
Oh, yeah.
Allegheny General is right there. He's from Erie.
Awesome. I like the new one that they were doing.
Yeah, they changed.
Yeah, I did. I missed the classics, but I like the new one.
Classic one, yeah. I don't know how they changed that actually.
No, they were doing it for most of the term.
Yeah.
Were you telling me or was it honor that series was involved?
They're not, just, you know.
People of those Pennsylvania.
Yeah, a bunch of guys are doing it, right?
The people that own PenMag are from my neighborhood. Oh, yeah? Bonner swears they were in the mall.
Championships
or
have a
they
way
are.
of making people change their mind. He's correct.
Your next door
Yeah,
neighbors.
great.
How did you find
Great,
out?
fine.
Just always told they were. One of the businesses they owned was.
Oh, no, you didn't miss one. There was a moment after the Bucks scored a couple of tries, it was like, those 3 points would be like
Trained pianist.
really, or maybe it was, I think it was a conversion, so maybe it was just the 2 points. It's like, if the game gets close, we may really miss those. If the number, took off.
You talked to them.
Michael Bedwell.
Yeah.
He's not a Christmas.
Were there any strange comings and goings?
I'll call just.
Weird hours?
You can find some people who like, I guess it's like pure station is triptych wrong. That's nice, but it's not like.
I worked
Well, it was, I
for
mean, you
the
have
guy.
some people saying that was when they did all of their damage.
Yeah.
The
world's big
Right,
like really white brain, like analysis. This makes sense.
You do?
She's a tougher match.
Every time I'm posing, I think it's like a new god. This is Lindsay Carnegie. And this is not actually.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Gladiators
they're-
sticking things up
it's not
their
that
butt.
bad.
Brand new cars, but it doesn't even know that way. And you go to his front door, and it's, oh no, that's. Well, then right at college. And I'm like, this ain't right.
Why doesn't Rob like how he's got.
My manager. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All I can remember is he looked like Bob Guccione. And he was right
By like, not a lot, but like 20 pounds or something. Probably not enough to
And
make
by the time I got to college, Vinny opened a pizza shop in Greentree, and he ran afoul of just like straight to guy. He was at Georgia.
He was extremely inflammatory.
Yeah, you can.
And how like, I was trying to go to properly, it's not like, you know, it's not wrong.
You thought it'd be a lot tighter.
Moncho, a little Colloquio,
Where did you watch?
What are you doing? Well, I mean, it was my fault because I put the picture in with that call. Yeah. So the worst immediately gets
All three of the
like a photo by
elimination round
So
matches
he
that
texted
they've
me
been.
like,
It was a lot of fun.
We own the photo.
Good,
Yeah, I know,
good
I
like
know.
mix of supporters of both sides at every game.
Just growing up in South Hills and Pittsburgh. There's not gonna be. My buddies. Yes, forever ties.
That was like the one disadvantage to them actually airing it on like NBC Sports. Moved over to American commenters. Like they clearly they'll watch it. People are tuning into this who have no idea what's going on. Which may have been the case. Like maybe people were, just flipping channels going, oh, what is this World Cup final? What I don't understand. Is this rugby? Yeah. Because like the rest of the matches didn't air here. You had to watch them on pay-per-view, and they were Kiwi announcers.
Yeah. I will say that there's some of those American commentators didn't know.
Yeah, it's just, it wasn't even that, it's just the way that they were explaining it, it was like, they were talking to the audience, which maybe, yeah.
I saw. US versus Australia.
Good, yeah, I do, well, I'm glad you're coming back to being good again.
It wasn't because I said I was fine. I couldn't figure out like the point differential.
And you're right.
There's still like an extra point.
December might be, August might be a little November might be at least the first 2 weeks of December might be.
Well, and then Jay actually. Wow. It'll be something. Gallery sent me an email during the match on Saturday. It's like, we were flipping channels and my son at first was like, what is this? And then was like totally enthralled. And they didn't watch the whole match, but I just thought that was really adorable that, because Jay and I.
Lazy people work twice, like my.
Not Steph Curry Luke.
It's called
That was always a pain player. I should have called game.
They're gonna have 53 on there.
Yeah. But they used, that was like,
There was a funny, I was watching,
Nigel, fantastic. Part of my group was watching. Are you saw it like apparently they're like come up and it was like really good and I loved it. I've never seen a body camera. I liked that a lot.
Teams are less likely to
Did they like assume they were gonna get it? I was a little concerned that like the semifinal had a fight. Maybe he's a little sore. Yeah, she was wearing like a GoPro. Yeah. On him, and so every once in a while, like when he was talking to players, she would switch over to something and like a rapid eye view. It was really cool. He was Michael too. Yeah, well, like, they could probably do it now. The technology was so much smaller. Did you watch the I love that they were showing some of the ads the last couple of hours, like traffic throws to their hat. My husband works for CBS.
That's the modern thing.
Yeah, he is a, you can see him, like, he's just like there grinning and
No, but but I work with Major here at you work for PR.
They'd be able to.
And you're in attorney.
Right.
They drafted your
Do they have like a broadcast stream?
Pretty much. So we've been working on a lot of information. So like by the time I leave, I have some
Are you still in That's great though, you're already building.
trying. It's a work in progress.
Nobody cares.
Like we have an opportunity to offices. Like they send us to the office. We have like
Awarded in this.
Do they also, I feel like you have more opportunities now that everyone's that just running on like CBS.com. Like, do they do more like?
they should. I think they
Dream on.
I do 2004. A lot of discussion.
Oh, nice, that'll be fun. I mean,
CBS is doing that kind of. Yeah, right. Also, for those, they're smart. After that, there's more. You can go watch that segment. That's one of to be
sure, well, she didn't because she's not. We watched it. It's fine. I mean, in terms of the, that play,
It's been
right, where it was like, that'll be great. The empowerment, right, and start with what the
But see what I like most. Or my favorite.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your accommodation of being here later. We had a highway bill on the floor. It's very good to be passing a bill, and House Democrats are very happy that some of their priorities are contained in it. The automatic increase in infrastructure investments, if more revenue flows into the Highway Trust Fund, it would be used for more infrastructure. Strengthening the Buy America provisions to maximize American job creation, focusing transportation investments to increase access to jobs in disadvantaged communities. This is really important. And promoting women and minority-owned businesses, recruiting and training transit workers from underrepresented populations. So this is hopefully a way to bring jobs to communities that would greatly benefit. I'm very pleased that the reauthorization of the Export-Import Bank is in there, and that every amendment was defeated. Every amendment was defeated. That was a bipartisan effort to defeat every amendment. Maxine Waters, Steny Hoyer, Denny Hecht, working with Congressman Dent, Lucas, Ventura. You know, it was really quite a bipartisan effort. We're very proud of that, because that is really a job creator that reduces the deficit, increases our competitiveness abroad by enabling small and moderate-sized businesses as well as large businesses to have access to markets abroad. The highway bill is a good bill, except it's a modest. I would say, rather than a robust rollout, it's a modest step forward. We really do have to work to do more, because our infrastructure needs are great, and they go beyond highway and transportation. You know, it's about broadband infrastructure, it's about water infrastructure in our country. And so we have a big challenge. As you probably know, the American Society of Civil Engineers puts our deficit into the trillions. Well, we're not going to have that kind of money to spend, but we hopefully will be able to leverage the money that we do have into getting the most for it. And it goes beyond transportation. It goes into other infrastructure that we need that I mentioned. The bill is a 6-year bill that's funded for about 3 years. So that, I'd like it to be funded, take that 3 years and spend it in 2 years, and then we'd have something more robust, but then we'd have 4 years unfunded. So we have to find a way and work for greater commitment to repair and modernize our infrastructure, creating good paying jobs, increasing wages, lowering the deficit. And here we are now with the appropriations. This is the clock is ticking. We have until December 11th, as you know. Last week, we were really happy that with the budget bill, 100% of the Democrats in the House and the Senate voted for the budget bill. The bipartisan compromise, Democratic and Republican-shaped budget bill, 100% of the Democrats voted for it. Sad to say, 200 Republicans, House and Senate combined, 200 Republicans voted against the bill. 68% of the members of the House Republican Conference voted against it, and the remainder coming from the Senate side. What the bill did was to affirm the full faith and credit of the United States of America. What a no vote does is to default on that. What the bill does is to enhance our ability to invest in our defense and our domestic agenda by lifting the caps and removing the stranglehold of sequestration. That's what Democrats voted for. 200 Republicans said no to that. 200 Republicans said no to stopping the drastic increase in Medicare Part B payments. 200 Republicans said no to stopping a 20% cut in benefits for people with disabilities under Social Security. It's hard to understand, but we were able to pass the bill. And the budget bill serves as a blueprint for how we go forward now in the appropriation season. Yesterday I met with our appropriators the appropriators, I'm an appropriator, Stenny's an appropriator, Mr. Clyburn's an appropriator, Rosa DeLauro is an appropriator, Mr. Israel, much of our leadership are appropriators, as are Mr. Reed and Senator Reed and Senator Durbin. So we understand the mentality of appropriators, and that is to try to work in a bipartisan way to get the job done with a time fuse there. And so we salute their work, and that's what they are doing and preparing for where we go here, except now we've lifted the caps. There's more investments to be made, and they have to do their 302B allocation as to how much they're going to invest, and what committees it goes to. That will be a Republican decision, and then they'll act in a bipartisan way to implement it. And we have until December 11th to put that omnibus together. Just remembering that September 30th, in time for the end of the fiscal year, 151 Republicans voted to shut down government, not to support them. And sadly, they tied to that. If this bill came up and did not remove funding for Planned Parenthood, then the Speaker would have to give up his gavel, which he did, sad to say. We welcome the new Speaker. We wish him luck and cooperation, and I'm happy that we're moving forward with a modest transportation bill. I wish it could be bigger, reflecting new technologies and all that is going on out there. On another front, yesterday I appointed the members to our select committee. We've renamed it Subcommittee, Republican Select Committee to Attack Women's Health. Our ranking member, Jan Schakowsky of Illinois, and Congresswoman Diana DeGette are of the Energy and Commerce Committee. From Judiciary, Jerry Nadler and Susan Del Bene, and from Gov Reform, Bonnie Watson Coleman, and Jackie Spear of California. Those are the three committees of jurisdiction for this issue where hearings take place. They bring a great wealth of knowledge, staff, intellectual resources, and the rest to this. It's a funny thing. Well, we'll see what their agenda is as they go forward. But I do believe that hardworking families deserve better than wasting taxpayers' money on select committees that diminish women's health possibilities. In terms of women's health, tomorrow, Sunday marks the start of the Affordable Care Act's third open enrollment period. Uninsured Americans across the country will be able to visit the health insurance marketplace and enroll in quality, affordable coverage for them and their families. It's pretty exciting. It's really exciting to say that thanks to this historic law, nearly 18 million previously uninsured, 18 million previously uninsured Americans now have quality, affordable health coverage. Again, young adults can stay on their parents' health insurance until 26. No longer will insurers be able to turn you away for pre-existing conditions. No more annual or lifetime caps on the coverage you can receive, and no longer will being a woman be a pre-existing medical condition. Just a few of the advantages of the law. As you know, the Republicans have tried scores of time to take it down. But we are very proud of the number of people who have had access now to affordable, quality health care. And at the same time, it is serving to lower cost to health care, not only to families, but to our budget, our national budget, and to our economy. One of the fastest growing parts of health care in our country is the cost of prescription drugs, the fastest growing part of health expenditures today. This is really coming to be a crisis. It must be understood, it must be investigated so we can find ways to rein in the soaring cost. As you know, Ranking Member Cummings has called on Chairman Chaffetz for an investigation which so far has not materialized. Democrats have formed a task force. Maybe some of you were at their press event yesterday. We will have a steering policy committee hearing on this subject. It really hits home with people. And part of the whole idea of our investments in basic biomedical research and the National Institutes of Health, and then coupled with the Affordable Care Act with accessibility, is so that these miraculous cures could be available to everyone. But the pricing is really becoming almost an immorality. And while I understand that research and development has to be paid for, and that we have some drugs that are cures that may be worth the money, we cannot stand for what is happening right now. We don't paint all of our companies with the same brush, but we do have to investigate those. We have to engage the practice that some are engaged in. It's a very big issue across the country. I know some of you do travel across the country, and it's a big issue in many homes and in many doctors' offices, and it's a very huge issue in hospitals across the country because they have to bear the cost. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I saw that the NDAA passed today.
Yeah.
Includes provisions to block President Obama from transferring detainees from Gitmo. Do you have a reaction to that? And also, are you disappointed that President Obama hasn't succeeded in closing Gitmo entirely?
I'm sorry that this is in the bill. The president has signed this bill before with a signing statement that relates to Gitmo. But I'm not disappointed in anything in terms of the president. I'm disappointed that the Republicans have prevented the president from closing Guantanamo, which he said he was going to do, which he set out to do, and which he had a plan to do, and he does have a plan to do now. As you know, there was a facility to be built in Illinois where people welcomed the economic development that it would bring, but the Republicans prevented that from happening. So my disappointment is that the Republicans, they should know that Guantanamo should have been closed a long time ago. They should not have prevented it. That's where my disappointment is. Yes, ma'am.
Democrats faced a pretty tough night on a Tuesday, but particularly the San Francisco sheriff's race, where Vicki Hennessy ended up beating Sheriff Ross Mirkarimi.
Right.
I believe she ended up picking up 52,000 votes out of 83,000 ballots that were cast. That particular race kind of focused in on the sanctuary city situation, since Sheriff Mirkarimi, he was a big staunch supporter of that. What does that really tell you about what San Francisco voters really want in that city?
Well, let me disagree with you. I don't think it was such a great, there was a loss in Kentucky. There were Democrats picked up 4 seats in Pennsylvania, in New Jersey, in neighboring Pennsylvania. They swept the election for the Supreme Court, preventing some, shall we say, not so friendly to people initiatives there. We have a long list of 2 pages. If you want to talk politics, I should have brought that because we can go state by state where there were some victories. The loss in Kentucky was a sad one for governor. However, we did win the attorney general seat there, and the secretary of state was reelected there. That you would describe Vicki Hennessy's victory in San Francisco as an indication of a bad night for Democrats, it just, I can't grasp that. Vicki Hennessy, sheriff now to be Hennessy, or acting, she will be the sheriff. It's very popular in our community. We had a race between 2 people. In her statements about this subject, she said she would view these issues about turning over people on a case-by-case basis. She had disagreed, as most of us did, with what the current sheriff did. But I wouldn't, in friendship, think that it was a bad night for Democrats because Vicki Hennessy won in San Francisco. We're all very proud of her. It was a great victory. And her distinction that she made is you look at each case one at a time. And I'm pleased that the Senate has rejected some of the ill-conceived notions that were drifting around there about sanctuary cities.
Madam Leader.
Yes, Chad. So Chad, what are we going to do with you now? The speaker went to your alma mater.
Right.
So are you going to be non-biased?
John Boehner has represented the district where Miami was located.
There you go. So, wow, goodness, oh gosh.
He lived down the street from it, actually. Anyway.
Congratulations to
Thank
Miami.
We've had a president, Benjamin Harrison, first speaker, and 2 unsuccessful vice presidents, Whitelaw Reid and Paul Ryan. But my question is about Paul Ryan.
Yes.
How do you think he has done in this first week? I mean, it's right out of the gate here, but how do you think he's done in that first week?
Well, to become Speaker of the House is a very momentous step forward. It's the 3rd highest position in the country: president, vice president, Speaker of the House. And so it's a great undertaking. To do so in medias res, to be tossed in right in the middle of a legislative session, in the middle of negotiations on a budget and the rest, is very challenging. And to then have to make your adjustments from a staffing standpoint and the additional responsibilities that I know the Speaker is proud to assume, it's, I think, really not, the first week is not a time to judge a Speaker. I think that just getting through the week is an accomplishment with all the things that barrage the new Speaker and his time.
And having been in the Speaker's chair yourself, though, not that you would give advice necessarily, but what are the, you were there for that first week, granted you didn't come in the middle of a Congress, but
Right.
what is kind of a potential pitfall you could see that, if you were talking to speakers at large, what you'd say, watch out for this, watch out for that?
Well, when the Speaker asked me for his advice, and I will share that with him and perhaps with you.
And you've not had a conversation
No, we have not. Not in that. We've had a friendly exchange on the floor, but we have not had that conversation. But I wish him well. It's a very challenging job. And I don't know if you have anything specific about the appropriations process or anything like that, because that's what we're engaged in. As my understanding from his press conference, that he said he was going to have the appropriations bills that have not yet been negotiated by the committees, the subcommittees, to be taken up by the full conference of Republicans. Well, that would be good news to our members, because 100% of our members say they should all be on the Appropriations Committee, and that we should have one committee in the House, and that's it, so that everybody makes those decisions. But the fact is, that's not governing by committee. That's not governing by committee. And so I think that will be challenging, but it's interesting, and it's curious, and I wish him well with it, but out of respect, as an appropriator, as I said, out of respect for the knowledge, the expertise that people have in their focus on their subcommittees, I think that'll be an interesting dynamic to see how his appropriators react to his whole conference weighing in on the bills of his committee and calling it, we're respecting the committee system. Yes, sir.
Among the election results this week was the defeat of a non-discrimination ordinance in Houston that would have protected LGBT people. Why do you think that ordinance failed, and do you think that defeat could galvanize support for a federal non-discrimination bill in Congress?
It was sad. I spent time last week in Texas. I was invited by the Bush family to speak at the Points of Light conference there. So I was there for a few days, from the weekend and then into Tuesday, when I spoke at the conference and then the convention, and then at a salute to the 25-year anniversary of it, and with President Bush and Mrs. Bush. It was glorious. So thank you for affording me the opportunity to sing their praises in terms of volunteerism and hope. At the time, obviously I was engaged in some political matters while I was there, meeting with Democrats along the way, and seeing the ads on TV. And that was heartbreaking. It was really heartbreaking, because some significant money came in, really mischaracterized what the initiative did. And I think the size of the, not only that it lost, I mean, the other side won, but the size of the defeat was stunning, because I don't think how many other cities in Texas have non-discrimination?
9 of the 100,000 people.
9 cities of 100,000 or more in Texas have this non-discrimination provision, and now they've defeated in Houston. What was interesting to me, I talked about the negative ads, but to see the ads with veterans in them saying that they supported it, the HERO, it was called HERO, because of what it meant to veterans, was so beautiful. And the kind of nasty ads, you know what they were. It's disappointing. But it is, we just have to think of it as a bump in the road. And of course, we have our equality bill that we have introduced in July, introduced by David Cicilline, but with bicameral support. In the Senate and the House, we announced it, and that would be an attempt to end discrimination in expanding the Civil Rights Act to include LGBT equality in there as well. It's inevitable. It will happen. Maybe inconceivable to some. It's inevitable to us. We have to shorten the distance, as I always say, between the inevitable and the inconceivable, and we will prevail. But it was disappointing.
Do you think that defeat could galvanize movement on that bill during this Congress?
I would hope so. We'll see. And we have a new speaker and the rest. I would hope so. But I think that I don't want anybody's hopes to be held too high when we see some of the actions taken by Congress. But this is when we had the majority, we passed a hate crimes bill that was fully inclusive, including transgenders. At the time, I think they told me, if you take transgender out, you can pass this bill in a minute. And I said, if we take transgender out, we're not passing it in 100 million years because we're not doing that. We're just not doing that. And so we thought we got past that a little bit. And of course, then we went on to don't ask, don't tell, repeal, and then the courts did the marriage equality piece. So we're making great progress. And the momentum was on the side of ending discrimination. And this, I hope we just consider an episode and not a trend. And we'll keep working very hard and build public support. The only way Congress acts is if there's public support, and that's what we will continue to do. Yes, sir.
Back to Kentucky, all the polls got it wrong. Mr. Bevin, who ended up winning that race, was viewed as very extreme conservative. But I was listening to some political analysts who said that because of the health care law that he actively ran against, you've sort of seen the loss of an entire generation of Democrats in the South. You were speaker on the backs of Blue Dog Democrats. How did Democrats win in the South in 2015, 2016?
Well, let me again not subscribe to your characterization. What happened in Kentucky was, let me give you an example. Mr. Yarmouth's district, when he ran in the off year, when he ran in the presidential year, he had over 200,000 votes. In the non-presidential year, he had, 170,000 votes, something like that, over 150,000 votes. That was 1 year ago. The gubernatorial candidate got 110,000 votes in his district. It was about turnout. And the answer to your question, not only in the South but everywhere, is we have to increase turnout. And if the turnout had been bigger, the election would have been different. But so what? We don't agonize, we organize, and that's what we have to do, whether it's in the South, the Midwest, in suburban areas, in rural areas, and in the West, not in the entire country. It's about showing people the connection, as Martin Luther King said, between the ballot, legislation, and their lives. And that just has not been done sufficiently.
President Obama and his team is very talented at that. There's a lot of worry I've read from Democratic groups that mobilization is just not there to the level that it was in 12. What can you guys do?
Well, the presidential year is the big year. I mean, it's not there in 12 as it is in 12. Yeah, because the presidential race is the main event. It has everything. It has glamour, it has money, it has power, it has showbiz. It's an attraction. And off years are like the lounge act. So who goes there, right? Unless you're just waiting for the next show. So no, I'm very optimistic because, as I've said to you before, and you've heard us present in a more full way, in fact, on Tuesday, Restoration Tuesday, where Mr. Clyburn and Congresswoman Terry Sewell presented their agenda for passing a Voting Rights Act, having outreach and engagement with voters about the connection of winning elections and winning initiatives to improve their lives. And we just have to do better at it. But in the presidential year is an opportunity time for us. Somebody told me that there was a poll after 2012 of people who didn't vote. And in that poll, President Obama won by 30 points over Mitt Romney. So we have a challenge, and that affects all the good things that we'd like to see happen, including a HEROES Act that was challenged in Houston. Yes, sir. And then I'm going to have to go.
There's an argument to be made, and you may quibble with how well it could be made, that the bipartisan agreement that's sort of hit this place in the last 2 weeks over the debt ceiling, the sequester deal, and now the transportation bill is basically let's kick everything until we see who the next president is. These are basically sham, gimmicky, paid-for bills whose basic thing is to get it off of the agenda until 2017. So what does it say about the atmosphere here that seems to be the case?
I don't even know what you're talking about. I really don't even know what you're talking about. This was a very substantial decision to lift the caps, to put off sequestration, yeah. But it had nothing to do with who the next president is, whoever she may be. But it,
Not the lounge.
or he. We have wonderful candidates across the board on our side. And that's one place I would disagree with the distinguished speaker, with all due respect, when he said that any one of the Republican candidates on the stage would be a better president than Hillary Clinton. Come on. But anyway, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Martin O'Malley, I'm so proud of him from Maryland. We have great candidates. So I didn't see that at all. This was of the moment. We had to keep government open. We wanted to do so in a way, if anything, it wasn't about what comes next. It was about what we have not done, what we were delinquent in doing. And so now we succeeded in lifting the caps, putting off the sequestration, lifting the debt ceiling in 2017. That was remarkable. Stopping the Medicare prescription increase and stopping the cut in disability. No, this was, well, I wanted more. This was a compromise. I wanted more. I wanted the IMF. I had a full agenda, but it being a compromise, I accept the fact that they have the majority. The president has his signature. We have we can uphold the whatever the president does.
Does the modest scope of these deals, this basic punting, basically mean that the next 14 months will be substantially policy-free?
Well, is that a bad thing? Is that a bad thing? I mean, we got policy-free, it'll be argument-free, because we have some. In other words, when it comes to lifting the debt ceiling, we've removed doubt that we're going to default. That's more certainty for our economy. Just the discussion of it in 2011 lowered our credit rating. You remember that? Or some of you were here then? It lowered our credit rating, just the mere discussion of it. And when we finally passed it in 2000, the last time we passed it, 199 Republicans voted no. They did not honor the full faith and credit of the United States. 28 voted yes, including Speaker Boehner. And don't we miss him? I mean, personally, I'm just talking personally. No offense to the new speaker, but personally, what a lovely guy. And so, no, that's a very interesting characterization. We're optimists. We're positive. This was a good thing. Let's see. It was going to create over 350,000 jobs in next year alone. So whatever it is, it's a good thing for job creation, for increasing paychecks and reducing the deficit, and again, having parity between defense, which we all want to support, and domestic, which we all want to support in a way that honors a firewall that you can't take from one or the other to increase the funding. So it was I thought very positive, very bipartisan, and I was willing to accept what I couldn't get in the bill for what was in it. And that's what I always say to members. You try not to judge bills for what isn't in it, but to respect it for what is in it. And I think it's worthy of respect. That's why 100 Democrats voted for it. Not because they didn't have their problems with one thing or another, but because they have a shared commitment, all of them, to working families in our country, of creating good paying jobs, increasing paychecks, and it all comes back to middle class economics versus trickle down, but we'll save that for another day. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
I agree. Well, in the West Coast, though, it's good for them. How about Airbnb staying alive in San Francisco? Were you supportive of that?
I was supportive of that, because
Yeah. Well,
so
my
then you can't select them, it's then by initiative.
yeah.
And that's a problem.
My aunt is a property owner, was very happy about the result. So, and Christine, I'll tell her to say hello.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will.